So here is the established leaving certificate, and this is what has to be happening. If you're going on directly into 5th year from 3rd year, or you're going from transition year into leaving certificate 5th year, you have to choose 7 subjects. Okay, the best 6 subjects out of those 7 will count for points. Okay, and they are done in your leaving certificate exam at the end of 6th year. Core subjects are English, Irish, and maths. You have to do them. If you're exempt from Irish, then you can substitute another subject instead of Irish, but you have to have a reason for it being exempt. The subject groupings fall under the sciences, the languages, the business, the practical, the applied sciences, or the arts humanities. Okay, and then we also have non-exam subjects, including guidance, religion, physical education, and IT. Now, okay, these you must be doing, and you must do them in school. So there are approximately 20 other subjects, or 20 subjects in total, that we will be trying to get you to make a choices about. So how do you choose the subjects? It's kind of a hard thing to do. So the first thing is, after your core subjects, those 3, you're looking at 4 more. What are you good at? Okay, what are you good at? What are you good at, not just in school, but what are you good at home? What will you study? Okay, what are you interested in? Because you'll study it if you're interested in it, okay? And the more you work on it, the better you get at it. What are your interests? And those could be your interests outside of school. So if you like tinkering with cars, or if you like building something, or if you really like baking and cooking at home, or if you whatever, okay, you'll find that there are subjects that link in with the types of things that you're good at. The next question you have to ask yourself is, are you thinking of going to a 3rd level course? Are you thinking about going to university or an institute of technology? Because then you have to take into account what are the entry requirements that that college requires, or maybe even that course requires. Okay, so to give an example, if I was looking to try to go and study medicine, okay, whether I like it or not, there are only 5 medicine colleges or courses in the country. Okay, and these courses require, in 4 of them, require me to have English, Irish, and maths. Those are the core, no problem. But I have to have 2 lab science subjects, okay? So I need chemistry plus 1 other, so that could be biology. That's already 5 of my 7 choices gone. And it also requires me to have another language, okay? So that would be if I have French or German or Spanish, that's gone into it, that's number 6. And that leaves me with just 1 pick of subject. So it depends, okay? I need to think about what it is that I'm trying to get involved with. The entry requirements for the college and the entry requirements, or the subject requirements for the course. So how to choose your subjects? What are you good at? What will you study? What are your interests? And then you match that with, are you going to the 3rd level? What are the requirements? Okay, so you need to have a look at that. Okay, and then you have to be a little bit realistic. Okay, we have to be realistic. What can I achieve realistically in terms of my results? Okay, or in terms of my achievement? I would love to be an astronaut. Unfortunately, that's not going to happen. Okay, that's not going to happen, certainly not at the moment anyway. Okay, so the points system is this, all right? And this is an example, okay? So 90 to 100%, 80 to 80, 90%, 70 to 79%. It's a little bit different to what parents might have experienced themselves. And the grades are now called H1, H2, H3, or at ordinary level 01, 02, 03. And beside them are the points that are allocated to each of those. So a student takes 7 subjects, their best 6 will count for points, and they take all of those, the best 6, and they add them up and they see what they get. But it only applies to the colleges and the universities. It doesn't apply to going into apprenticeships. It doesn't apply to going into training. It doesn't apply to lots of jobs, okay? It doesn't apply to lots of courses, except the universities and the institutes of technology, either in Ireland or abroad. It's a league table, okay? So the number of people who are applying for a course or a place, that's what sends the points up high. If you have 60,000 students doing the Leaving Certificate this year, and they're all trying to get into the one course and there's only 35 places, well, you can think about what kind of points would be involved. Okay, so it's a league table of choices and indicators only, and sometimes it's actually fashionable. Sometimes they go with a number of years ago, the situation was that crime scene investigation was very popular on programs on television. Okay, And for a couple of years, things to do with forensic science, were very high in terms of their points on the league tables of choices. Your issue is your best subject, your best grades will give you your best points. Okay, so if you are good at something, you'll probably do well at it, and you'll probably pull out good results out of it. Okay, and that's the most important thing for us in that sense. So I'm going to try to simplify this as much as I can. These are the 3 most asked questions on the subject choice night. Do I need a language other than English and Irish? Do I need a science subject? Can I do a subject I did not do for the junior certificate? Well, the answer is kind of a little bit complicated, but it depends. For the languages, the language groups, all National University of Ireland universities, the NUI, require you to have English, Irish unless you're exempt, and 1 other language for every course except the courses in science, engineering, IT, or nursing. So effectively things like if you wanted to do arts, if you wanted to do business, if you want to do law, if you want to do medicine and architecture, you do have to have another language at one of those universities. Okay, so the core subjects, English, Irish, in this case French or German or Spanish, or another modern European language. So I think that there are about 18 on offer at the present moment. So between you Polish and Russian and you Lithuanian, Latvian, okay, there's all available as well. To answer the science question group, do you have to have a science subject? Well, these are the core science subjects, or the main science subjects, okay? If you are looking at anything to do with science, okay, so be that from nursing to general science, to even things within agricultural science, okay, that could be, and you could be looking at anything to do with health, human health, okay, animal health, veterinary, the whole lot of them, okay, they are all going to have an element of science in them, and you would be very much advised to have a science subject. If you don't have a science subject, you probably won't be able to do it. Now, Ms. O'Leary in a few minutes will be looking at an app or a system that you can use, a very handy actually tool that we have on the system to allow you to check whether or not what courses would be ruled out if you didn't take a language, or what courses would be ruled out if you didn't take a lab science subject. Okay, these are the core ones: physics, chemistry, biology, and agricultural science. Okay, so those are the main ones that we would have as a sciences group. Applied mathematics, not really acceptable in terms of as a lab science subject. Okay, so I'm going to move kind of fairly quickly through this one, and I'm not going to spend an awful lot of time on it, but if you can see that the slide is quite complicated. So you need to please check colleges for courses that you might need at this stage if you're thinking about it, okay? Obviously things like if you wanted to do primary school teaching, then you need to have Irish, and not alone do you need to have Irish, but you need to have Irish at honours level, and not alone do you need it at honours level, but you need it at a H4, okay, or a H3, okay, so H4 or better, okay. And there are some courses and some subjects that are available that are onto this slide. I'm going to sort of say, okay, if you know what it is that you want to do next, if you think you know what you want to do after the leaving certificate, then it would be really good to do a little bit of research and find out what subjects might you need, okay? And that's what you're going to be putting down. If you have no idea what you want to do, then the best advice we can give you is to err on the side of caution, where you'll be able to open yourself up for everything. So I would suggest that you would take one lab science subject at least. You would, if you have a language and you're reasonably okay at it, continue with your language, okay? And then that means that you're taking 2 other subjects that you really like, or that you're really good at, or that you would be really interested in and would be willing to work at. Okay, so those are your 4 codes, or your 4 subjects. So what do? It's important that you put down the choices in order of how much you want them. Okay, so you're going to be given next week, or might even be tomorrow, if for Mr. Creedon, your list of options that will come out on VSware. But it's important that you put down the 4 subjects on top of the core that you're doing, the 4 choices that you're making in order of preference, please. Okay, so the subject that you want most from the 4 or 5 that you are choosing, please put those down, the one that you want most as number 1. And then the subject that you want the most after your number 1, put it down as number 2. okay, and so on and so forth down to 3, 4, and 5. The reason that we're asking that is when we get all the information back and put it into the computer, it will give us a band, okay? And the banding will tell us how many students are looking for biology, how many students are looking for art, how many students are looking for, and how many times we need to put a subject into, 1, 2, or 3 bands so that we can make sure that most people will get it. So far, okay, up until now, it's been about 80% of the students have always gotten their first, second, and third choices. Okay, so 80% is pretty good. When you start moving down into the 4th or 5th choice, okay, it can become a little bit more difficult. So what I would ask you is to make sure that you have chosen the one that you want most to do. That should be your number 1, the next most number 2, the next most number 3. Okay. And then you send that back to Mr. Creedon. Okay, you submit it through VSware, and it's probable, okay, that a second round of choices will be made based on your banding or the bands that come out. Okay, but Mr. Creedon will probably talk to that as well himself. Okay. Put up some helpful advice sites. Okay, so I'm just going to mention these, even though they're Miss O'Leary is going to talk a little bit more about them. So careers portal, there's a tab on our own Coláiste website. You may mention that in your school journal, pages 14 to 32. There's lots and lots of information. Qualifax.ie, NCCA, which is the National Council for Curriculum and Assessment, who create the subjects and what are the content of the subject. And then there's a good video that you'll find in classroomguidance.ie, which is a 7-minute version of what I've just done. And at this stage, I can pass over to Miss O'Leary. And
so you might know what you want to do after school or what you want to do for a career, but if you know what you definitely don't want to do, it's a great help so that you're okay with eliminating certain career and course options by not having certain subjects. Okay, because as you know, not having certain subjects will eliminate options for you. So you need to know as well how you learn or perform best or worst. And that would be true in relation to whether you're going to pick QQI4 or whether you're going to pick Leaving Cert. You need to know how it is you prefer to learn. Like, do you prefer to learn by doing, like skills demonstration or practical means, or do you prefer to learn by theory? And I'm going to show you later on, and we have the information also in the journal on page 25, the breakdown of every subject in the Leaving Cert, what percentage theory, what percentage exam, practical, project, etc., so that you know what type of learning you'll be doing in the subject and to be able to decide whether that will suit you. So you need to know what tasks, activities and environments you enjoy so as to identify subjects and areas of interest. So if you enjoy working in a workshop, well then you might enjoy engineering or you might enjoy construction, for example. You need to know what subjects you have performed well in the past and which subjects term reports suggest you will perform well in the future. And I'll be talking about this a little bit later on, what subjects, for example, woodwork links to construction, metalwork links to engineering. You know, certain subjects link on to other subjects in the senior cycle, and for certain skills-based subjects, it might be difficult to do it at higher level if you hadn't done it at junior cert. So I'll talk a little bit about that later. You also need to read and consult the information given to you in your subject choice handouts and reports. So the handouts are in the journal, and I'll be talking about those pages in a second. So on to the next slide. So I just briefly advice from 6th years on subject choice. I ask them every year, you know, what would your advice be? Don't follow your friends into subjects that might not suit you. Be your own person. Don't overestimate your abilities. Know your level. Okay, so be honest with yourself. Like, you know, don't be taking chemistry in order to do medicine if you're not someone who's doing all the higher level subjects as it is, because you might be taking a subject that you mightn't necessarily be good at, that you mightn't be able to do at higher level, thinking that you might be able to get 650 points, and you mightn't be, that mightn't be your lane, that mightn't be where you're at, because you might be already doing 3 ordinary level subjects. So I'll elaborate a little bit on that later. No requirements before you choose your subjects. So be aware of third language requirements for NUA colleges, etc. And I'm going to show you an app that can help you know which colleges require it. And I'll also show where in your journal that information is also. Pick subjects with a good balance of project and practical work in a balance that suits you best. If you pick subjects that are all theory, well then they're all going to be based on an exam in June of your Leaving Cert year. So you're going to have to do an awful lot of learning, try and hold it all into your head and regurgitate it in the exam, and that's a lot of pressure. Whereas if you mix it up with a few subjects that have practicals and projects, you're taking a bit of the pressure off. But equally, you don't want to be having too much projects that you're swamped in March, April of your Leaving Cert year. So a balance is always good. You have to have you'll have an idea of what suits you and how you got on in your written project work, practical work, exam-based stuff from junior cert CBAs and stuff like that. And also, you know, your term exams, your Christmas exams, you'll know from teacher comments and that they'll say, you know, maybe classwork better, exam result disappointing. You know, so that's somebody who'll be good at projects rather than the exam. And that information you can always access on VSware, and it's great information. Project work can help spread out the work, as I said, a bit more, rather than having all your marks based on exams in June. But if you're bad at time management, you don't want to have too much project work. If you're someone who hasn't handed in projects or has been handing in stuff late, like, be honest with yourself about how you are, do you know? So, as I said, the useful resources, I'm going to show you a little bit now about those as we move on. I'm not going to stop too long on them now. I'm going to show you the Qualifax app. I'll show you the careers portal tab on our own website, and this presentation will be putting that in there for you to look at later if you want. And I'll also show you where in your journal you get information to help you, not just with subject choice. Like, it's not just the day you pick your subjects and the day you fill in your CEO that are determine whether you'll get your dream course. It's what you do every day, and that's why it's in your journal, because you have to think about the decisions you make every day. Are you going to drop a level in a subject? Well, that information needs to be in the journal because you need to know what the consequences of your decisions are. So that's why all that stuff has to be there and with you and in your mind all the time. So, useful pages in your journal. And I did say in the meeting notes to have your journal with you, if possible. So you'll see there pages 14 to 32. And I have put in there all the minimum entry requirements in terms of languages and in terms of subjects. And there's one example there that you'll see on the screen. For example, chemistry is essential. You'll see there, I call that grey stripe. If you look at the grey stripe, that lists all careers there that subject is essential for, and I call it the grey stripe of doom, that if you didn't have that subject, you couldn't do that career. So if you didn't have chemistry, you couldn't do dentistry, you couldn't do veterinary, you couldn't do dietitian in DIT, you couldn't do medicine in UCC. Now, it's also very desirable for nursing, paramedic, etc., but it's not essential. And over on the right hand side, you'll see there, it's a lab science subject, which you'd need for nursing, or you'd also need for PE and maths and DCU. So you'd need that for a few things, and you can see exactly what each subject is required for. So another thing, as I said, that's useful to know, and again, this is in page 25 of your journal, in a table in your journal. The only subject that's missing from it is the PE, and I'll explain to you what the breakdown of that is there. But you'll see there from that graph that the subjects that are the black bar part, it's a bar chart. So the black bar shows how much exam is in that subject. The green shows how much practical is in the subject. The purpley pink shows how much of an oral exam is in that subject. And the blue shows the written or project work. So you can see there, if you're someone that's really good at exams, well then you might be choosing, you know, subjects that are all exam. But if you're someone that does better where there's a bit of a project, you can see there which subjects have a bit of a project in them. Okay, so, and also, like, you know, even by looking at the books, if I picked up a biology book, it's probably the thickest book that'd be in a student's bag, because it's all learning off, because it's all exam based. So if you're really good at learning lots and lots of things off, maybe that's for you. But if you're someone who is not good at that, maybe it's not for you. So, as I said, the only subject there that's missing is the new subject of PE. And the new subject of PE there, if it's not in your journal, if you want to write it down there on page 25, so you'll have it, the exam theory is 50%. The practical performance, where you're videoed doing 2 different types of sports, it could be a field sport and a dance or whatever, that's 30%. There's no practical project as such, but there is a portfolio that you have to write up, and there's an oral exam. So what am I aiming to get? And again, this is also in the journal on page 24. What grades do I need? Okay, so this is kind of a summary table of points. So I put in, not every course in the country is in that, but the main things kind of look at. So if you want to do medicine, veterinary, dentistry, or for example, actuary, you want to be getting 550 to 625 points. 625 is when you've honours maths and you get the bonus points. So you'd want to be getting all H1s and H2s really. Okay, you could discount one subject, but you'd want to be all higher level. You could afford to have one ordinary level subject and still be in the running, but mostly people who are at that level will be doing all higher level. Okay, so if you're not in that situation and you're doing 3 ordinary levels, really and truly medicine, veterinary, dentistry, that's not going to be mathematically possible. So I wouldn't be scuppering your chances of getting something else that you might like, for example, veterinary nursing. That might also be high enough points, but that would be within your grasp. And I wouldn't want you to scupper those chances by choosing a subject like, for example, chemistry, with a mind to do veterinary, then ended up taking on another ordinary level subject in chemistry and also not having the points to get veterinary nursing. So usually happens now is that they've no problem picking the first 2 and maybe even the first 3 because they'll have their minimum entry subjects and then they'll have subjects that they like. And then they'll be like, what am I going to pick for my number 4? And then you have to pick 5 subjects in total because they'll try and give you 4 out of your favourite 5. So you're saying, what am I going to pick for my 4th and 5th? So it might be just that you're picking a subject that is the least worst option, that you don't hate, and that you have a fair enough chance of getting an honour in, you know, getting a higher level grade in, okay? And if you're really trying to get points and you're really trying to get up the table, that table that I showed you, you're trying to get points, you might be just picking subjects that have a fair chance of getting good points out of. So if we look at this table here that I'm showing you, you'll see that, for example, if you look at, you can see there the A stands for Ardla Vale and the G stands for Ganala Vale. And you can see certain subjects, it's harder to get, less people do it at higher level, okay? So for example, if we were to look at chemistry, so we have, fair enough, we have about a fair number of people doing that at higher level. But if you look over at the red column, you'll see that the failure rate in that subject is quite high. So as comparison to another subject, like for example, biology, the failure rate might be lower. So, or the failure rate in ag science might be lower. So if you wanted to have a science subject and you were someone that you did okay at science, okay, but you got maybe C or grade C at junior cert or something like that, you might be as well to take on one of the science subjects that are less difficult to pass and pass the higher level paper. You can kind of see, well, which subjects do most people do higher level in. So most people, for example, in construction, do it at the higher level, similar with art. So if there are subjects that you will say you did woodwork at junior cert, you did art at junior cert, and you need another subject that you can do at higher level, maybe that might be for you. So that's another way of looking at it. As I said, it's the 4th and the 5th subjects can kind of flummox people. They don't know what to put in. Well, if there's no obvious choice, go with the choice that's going to give you the best points and that you don't hate. Now, and as I said, if you do ever want to change a subject, we allow like limited amount if there's places available very early on in the term before Halloween. There might be a little bit of changing around. We're hoping that you'll have your research done and that won't be the case, because you might, you know, there mightn't be room in the class that you want to get into. But in your journal there, you have to sign off on it, your parent has to sign off on it, and a guidance counsellor and Mr. Delahunty will have to sign off on you changing a level. It's quite a serious thing, and you have to go through in your journal, you know, the consequences of that, be it to change a level or change a subject. Now, useful tools. So I'm going to just take that down and I'm going to share my my online stuff with you. Some of the useful tools. I do that, I might just show you our careers portal page where this presentation will be posted. So on the regular Collage to Do Nice Gig website, we have a careers portal page here. And there's loads of there's a notice board on this, or any careers events that are happening, or virtual events. And there's also where we put our presentations. And we also, within this website, careers portal, there's also useful subject choice stuff if you click into it. So this is our website. So as you can see there, there's points calculator, there's lots of different stuff. There's events, and we'll have our presentation up here. And there's also, you can go in and look at self-assessment, career interest, and look at all the subjects. There's videos about the subjects, etc. if you go under media as well. So there's lots of information there that's going to help you. But in addition to that, I'm going to show you the Qualifax tools that will help you understand what courses absolutely require a third language, require a science subject, or require a particular subject, so that you'll know if you're not picking that subject, what you have eliminated. So if you go onto Qualifax.ie, click in as a student, and if you go down here, you'll see useful tools. And within that, then, you've lots of useful tools like a points calculator and an interest assessment to give you a chance to find out what kind of things would match your interest. But this is the important thing that we're working on today, is the minimum subject requirements. So if you click into that and you look at leaving cert subjects, you can see, just make it a bit smaller, you can see, get it to show you third level courses that may or may not require the following subject. So for example, if I pick a third language and I click, now you can refine it by county, etc., but I'm just going to click search. And I can see there that, and this surprises quite a lot of people, only a total of 169 courses require a third language. However, 1,371 courses do not require a third language, which is amazing. And a lot of people think, oh God, if I don't have a third language, I can't go to college, or I can't go to university. And that's not true. So I can go in here and see, well, which ones, what are those 169 courses? And I can view courses, and I can see there, I can look over the 4 pages of courses that require it. Now, accounting here in UCC requires it, but if I was to do accounting in CIT, it wouldn't require it. So it just shows you the specific course and the specific colleges that require it. Okay, now I can do a new search there as well. So at this time I might search for a science subject. So I might say, well, what courses require a science subject, and search. And there are 167 courses that definitely require a science subject, and I can view those courses. Okay.
And we'll open up the VSware portal. A notification should have gone to the parent app. If not, let me know, and I'll release it again tomorrow. So what you'll see will be just a series of columns, and as Mr. Lander said earlier, make sure the subject that you want most, or your most desirable option, is number 1, 2, 3, 4, and put a bit of thought into 5 as well. Now, the likelihood is that you will get, definitely you will get 3 options. Most people will get their 4 options, but you might have some students picking combinations of subjects that we only run 1 class in. For instance, DCG, German, music, physics. If you went for that combination, it might be a little more difficult to get those 4. So that would be important. So that will be sent out to parents, and with your son or daughter, then you can send them back into the parent app. Once I get all the subject choices back from all the students who are opting for the traditional leaving cert, we will then put it to the computer algorithm, where it tries to make sure that we meet the needs of the vast majority of students, and then we will come back with the bands, and we'll have a second go at it.